All right. Well, good evening and welcome to another exciting episode of Goth Yearbook After Hours. Is I your host as always, Eric, aka the Eric Wynn, and with us as always is the hostess with the mostest, Caitlin, aka the Caitlin D. Caitlin, how's it dreaming?
Well, here you go again, Eric. Normally I keep my visions to myself, but
Oh boy,
tonight I'm going to make an exception.
I actually got one of our submissions. Well, we'll get let's just jump right into it. Why don't you tell the good folks at home like what we're doing tonight?
Yeah, so we're doing an episode on dreams, and I think I was sort of inspired to do this because we had Cliff Taylor on last week who wrote the book The Memory of Souls. In that book, I mean, just and Native American culture in general takes dreams so much more seriously, and they're so much more important to the way people relate to not only each other but their own soul stories, their own life stories. And I really appreciate that way of looking at dreaming because that's something that have practiced since I was in my mid 20s. And I also, when I was very young, I've just always had really powerful dreams, prophetic dreams, dreams that felt like past lives, dreams that have helped me make major decisions in my life, dreams that I've like met my sister's kid before they were conceived in a dream. Um, and I just think they're really powerful and important. And we have this sort of strange cultural programming where we're just brainwashed into believing that dreams are just dumb, random brain chemicals firing and whatever. And I think that that's like a really ignorant and reductive way of looking at psychological process and spiritual process that is super important. So I wanted to talk about dreams during Native American Heritage Month. And also I just think it's cool because, and we're going to see an example of this tonight as we go through these dreams, the process of sharing dreams in a community, I really think actually has some cool benefits, and people start actually sort of sharing space in the dream world. And dreams, like the more you talk about your dreams with people in your community, I think the more you have to gain from not only your dreams, but the dreams of the people in your community. And that's what I'm like, let's just make this whole show a dream interpretation show. And that's all we do from now on.
Hell yeah, I'm way into it. What you the first time you were ever on the show, you talk and you've mentioned him all the time, but what is the author? And I feel like you've talked about how he has some books about dreaming. What's his name again?
So Robert Moss was
Yes.
the first author that I got really into, and still, he's like probably still the most important author for me as far as someone who taught me the way that I specifically like to look at and interact with dreams. And he teaches a method called active dream work, and it's based on animistic religions, which are like more indigenous cultures have animistic religions where you just see everything around you as spirited basically, and there being other realms in the dream world being part of them and them being just as real as quote reality.
Mm-hmm.
um and he's like an excellent guide. He wrote a book called Conscious Dreaming, and that is the one I would recommend as like the entry point. But for people who are like interested in historical actual evidence of dreams being historically and scientifically significant, I recommend The Secret History of Dreaming, which is by Robert Moss. But he also writes really amazingly. There's a book that he wrote on dreaming the dead, and it's like the role of dreaming and interacting with not only our ancestors but also our own like mortality through dreams
Mm-hmm.
throughout history and now around the world. And he's just like a really crazy dude, and I recommend all his work. He's also on podcasts and stuff, so you can just pretty much type his name into anything and dive into it if you're looking for an entry point into dreaming that isn't just the typical like, oh, look at your hands 3 times a day if you want to lucid dream, and you know
Mm-hmm.
uh
I will
try to
say,
fly or whatever.
yeah, I will say, like on that end of the spectrum, a book I would recommend is one called "Exploring the World of Lucid Dreaming" by Stephen LeBerg and Howard Rheingold. It is a little bit more of like a more on like the, I wouldn't say practical necessarily, but like a little bit more by the numbers approach to it. But it really breaks down like the pros of lucid dreaming, how it can help with like cognitive abilities like in your day-to-day life. And it gives like really, in my opinion, like helpful techniques onto how to like not only just like lucid dream, but like in general like have productive dreaming and have like a get like a better REM cycle and get like a better night's sleep in general. So just for like a more, ABC's kind of version of it, I would highly recommend that book to someone who's maybe getting into the subject for the first time.
Yeah, that one wasn't. I mean, that those methods just were not for me. I think what I liked about Robert Moss is that it's not necessarily about like learning to control your dreams,
Mm-hmm.
but like learning to engage with them in a way that's going to be healing or significant for whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I realize also that they address that in those books, but they're a little, for me those were too much like uh and it's nothing against the authors because it was definitely an important bridge to build, but it was like they spent a lot of time trying to sort of like rationalize dreams being significant.
Yeah.
And for me, like, I don't need that pitch, you know? Maybe if I was more skeptical, but like dreams have already impacted my life to such a degree that I'm like, I don't need convincing. I don't need the data on it, you know?
Right. I'm really excited to check out his stuff, especially the what was the second one that you said? The one that was kind of good. Probably jump in.
Well, conscious dreaming is the one, and it's there is like a subtitle to it basically, but I forget what it is. But it's called conscious dreaming, and that one's really about learning to heal your body through your dreams, and to transform. Um, and so that one really inspired me. And then like shortly after I read that was when I like just started paying attention to my dreams in a whole different way. And the steps through that basically, whereas like lucid dreams and the Stephen LaBerge, I don't know, is that how you say his name? LaBerge?
Maybe I'm no confident because I've
LaBerge?
never heard I've never heard him like in an audio recording anything pronounce his name. So
LaBerga. Yeah, in that that's more of a guide to like, okay, become lucid in your dreams so that you can like do whatever you want within the dream sphere.
mm.
And then it sort of like takes steps to be spiritual. And in active dream work, it's more about like being like, oh, I dreamt last night of a peanut butter sandwich and it like made me think of this song. And so I'll listen to that song today and eat a peanut butter sandwich. And that, like, I mean, that's a really strange, that's not the best metaphor, but like, it's like how taking actions from the symbols that you see in your dream can unfold these life stories and synchronicities, especially um, that end up being really significant. And also learning to see, really just read your own energy in a way that is symbolic and animistic and less, and like digesting the symbols in a way that you can apply them practically to things like eliminating disease from the body or um, recognizing how to overcome some sort of obstacle in your life or whatever it is.
Mm. So on that note, do we want to before we get into some of the ones that are submitted, do we want to talk about some of the dreams that we've had recently? Great.
Oh God. Okay,
Shouts
yeah.
out
So
to Water,
before
big sponsor of the show, Big Water.
yeah, shouts out to the subreddit Hydra Homies.
Is that really a subreddit?
Oh yeah, I follow it. It's great. People just post pictures of water and like them drinking water and like there's all these like things about it. Like we hate Nestle. Um just
Really like fuck
they're
Dasani.
basically trying to no, oh yeah, definitely fuck Dasani.
Or Dasani's Coke.
People
Which
who
one is
drink
Nestle? Which one of the
no, well, fuck both of them for different reasons. Dasani just because it's like a joke of a water brand,
yeah.
and Nestle because they basically are trying to like copyright water, you just like own all the water in the world and sell it to people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there's other stuff too. Check it out if
Yeah,
if you're
I will.
interested in that. But So basically, before the show, I keep one thing I highly recommend if you want to start remembering your dreams, and if you're one of those people who's
Oh, yeah.
like, I want to remember my dreams, but I just don't have them. Lies. Everyone has dreams every night. You just have to set the intention to remember them rather than repeatedly telling the story, I don't remember my dreams, because you're just basically reaffirming to your own subconscious mind, I don't remember my dreams. So you're not going to remember your dreams. But if you start to be like, all right, even if all I remember is one color or something from my dream last night, I'm going to write it down. Do that. On October 10th of 2020,
My
apparently I had a
client
dream.
walked into.
Apparently, I had a dream called Shower Clown. And all I remember, I'm gonna read the dream, but all I remember, I have been having a weird amount of nightmares this year, which I haven't really had this regularly since I was a kid. I'll have them every once in a while. But I think it's just because there's a lot to process in the world right now, a
Mm.
lot of horrors. Um, um, so okay, with no further ado, all I remember about this dream is getting stabbed by a fucking clown. So here we go. Shower clown, October 10th, 2020. I wrote this down at 8:20 a.m. And I used the notes app for this if anyone was curious. My my sisters were bonding and being very mean to me and excluding them. I'm assuming I meant me. And excluding when I tried to confront them, they laugh at me. I am trying to show that I'm staying really calm, but they don't let up much. We are around lots of swimming pools at a type of camp. There's a horrible predator on the loose. They take a family portrait without me, and I secretly made sure I'm in the bathroom when they take it. So I like hid on purpose while they were taking the portrait just so I could get mad about it.
Holy fuck.
um but it still hurts when I come out and find out that they're gone and didn't even notice that I wasn't in the photo.
Oh.
Yeah. Just I'm showing some real feelings about how I feel in my family, guys. The predator gets a boy that's Courtney's. I shouldn't say it. Well, whatever. That's my sister. And I tell her
Great, great in the moment edit. They just said like, ah, fuck it.
a boy that's Chloe's. And I tell her I'll go with her. We go to take out a kayak, but it's sagging all the way down in the front as if I'm too heavy. I promise her that I don't care if I get jail time. I'm going to go find and kill this guy. I say something about making friends in jail. Now I see how I see that it's possible now, meaning her. I don't know what I'm talking about.
That is
So
what you
apparently
would.
this is some sort of jail.
You would do that too. You'd be like, you know what? Like, I would go there. I'd probably learn a good hobby. Read a couple books. I'd be like friends with a few people. Learn their stories.
Oh, I'm coming out a doctor or a lawyer. At one point, before this, I dive way down deep to the bottom of a pool and it's completely dark, and I'm suddenly scared that I'll be plunging indefinitely. We all know that feeling.
Mm.
I can sort of breathe underwater. I do reach the bottom. But after we go get out of the kayak, okay, we are on foot into this bathroom that has two doors and connects two spaces. Here we go. Here's Shower Clown. In the shower is a horrifying monster, a clown painted on a rag doll like a scarecrow with blood pouring out of its center and viscera and guts falling out. We are watching in horror, and Chloe is almost just sort of resigned watching it. We both prepare to face whoever's behind this, and sure enough, there's a man crouching under a blanket. So I remember basically, like, I open the shower curtain, and there's this, like, scarecrow that has, like, its guts pouring out.
Oh, fuck.
And so it's, like, not a real thing, but it's like someone put guts in a scarecrow.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
That
but then I
imagery.
know, like, yeah, I know that it's just sort of like a fake out that someone set up
Mm.
so that, like, I would open that and see that and just be scared, and then that's like the moment they were waiting for. But I realized that, so I immediately, like, see that next to in the same bathtub in the corner is this guy that's like hiding under a blanket, and he's about to attack me with a knife. And I try to throw a knife at his face, but I miss, and it's like a pathetic throw. And then he basically, like, springs up and just his knife up under my sternum.
Holy
And
shit.
like I remember like getting stabbed by him and like blood coming out of my mouth, and then I woke up.
That is harrowing and extremely fucked up. That
um
was October 10th?
so wait, that was October 10th, and I didn't even remember that dream until I just saw this browsing before the show.
Damn, you spooky month.
Spooky ooty. Well, I think basically
Yeah,
to
what's your
me, I mean,
interpretation?
I won't go into the family stuff because obviously that's like no one needs to listen to that. It's not very entertaining and it's pretty obvious. But think but I think I think the scarecrow is really interesting because when you take apart scarecrow as a symbol and sort of the role of it, it was like the thing that it's like something that's set up to be scary, but that fundamentally isn't real.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's like a practice. I don't even know what psychologically this practice is. Maybe it's Jungian because I think whatever. But so you looked at every character in the dream basically as like an aspect of yourself rather than an entity outside of yourself. And so when I think of that guy who killed me, that's like an aspect of my shadow. That's something that's like this what RuPaul would call the saboteur.
The inner saboteur.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
The part of me that's trying to kill me, that's trying to like shut down my light, shut down my spirit. And what they're using is like scare tactics that aren't actually real. It's like set up to be scary, but that's like the distraction from the real thing.
Right.
So I think that to me that was just sort of some symbolism, like mental fun imagery, so, to something to really scare me and shake me and like wake me up and get me to look at an aspect of myself that like, okay, where am I hiding, where am I like hiding away, and where am I just I mean, that is a thing for me where I freak myself out constantly. I watch a bunch of like true crime and I just like I like scary things, but I also like definitely need to be, comforted and probably should spend just as much time like spending my mental energy on like building myself up and not and we do it about I do it about the future too. What if I don't have this? What if I lose this? What if I never blah blah blah? What if everyone hates me and my family, and what if I'm never going to be good enough, like all these
Yeah.
things that are just stories. Basically it's
Mm.
like the guts stuffed in this drama, and it's not that none of it's real, it's just like it's not as scary when you know what it is.
Yeah. And, kind of to follow up what you're saying, and just that's why I love when RuPaul has brought that up before. It's like always like the lesson, more or less, it's just like, how does it serve you? Because most, that stuff doesn't serve you. So whether or not there's truth and reality in those like kind of fucked up thoughts that you can tell yourself all the time, it's more like, what's it serving you to constantly like attack yourself with all that negative shit,
Mm-hmm.
stabbing yourself in the sternum.
Yeah, and I could do a whole other hour just on what scarecrows represent, as far as like, okay, they scare birds away from crops, and what are crops? Because crops represent abundance and
Mm.
security, and like, so you can go down that whole path. But I want to let's move to a new dream. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you?
I haven't written mine down in a long time, but I will say the one that was more memorable in recent months. A good friend of mine passed away last November, and I had this dream where his younger brother and I, the three of us, all went to like the same grade school, and I was like walking with his brother and his younger brother, and he was like very like stressed, like he was looking for something, but every single time I tried to like get from him what it was he was looking for, like he would constantly be interrupted by someone else that would like come along our path, and
Hmm.
we kept opening doors to like different rooms like in the school. So like, and each time we would open a door, it was the same room, but it would, even though it was like on different location on the campus, and each time would be like a new person who was like interacting with him, and I couldn't quite even though like couldn't like tell what words were being said, it was that sensation where I was like, I knew that like they were trying to talk about what it was his little brother was looking for, and I just like the words were not like coming out, and they just like it was that frustrated feeling in the dream where like the information, the key to that information is just not being handed to you, and it kept getting
Mhm.
more and more like disorienting in a sense because of that, because we kept like going into different rooms, and the dream essentially ended with we finally were in the parking lot of the school, and his brother, my friend who had passed away, walked up to me because his brother had finally left, and he asked me, "Do you know what it was he was looking for?" And then I woke up, which is like,
Damn.
yeah, I know. It's like to me, I don't know. It's hard for me to say. Like the first thing I thought about was like maybe there's something going on with an unresolved thing between the two of them, or maybe something that's unresolved between me, in that situation. And I don't know. It feels like it's
Well,
definitely rife with something.
yeah. Did it feel when you were having the dream? Did it feel like that person's actual energy? It was the guy that died, right?
It was his brother that I was along with, trying to find like because he was looking for something, and I could tell it had to do with his brother,
Oh,
uh,
but
who
his
had passed.
brother's alive,
Yeah, his little brother is still alive. My friend was the one who I know.
and
Sorry, that might have been confusing, but my friend who had passed away, I was in a dream with
uh huh.
his younger brother, and we were looking for
Mm-hmm.
something. And then at the very end of the
Oh.
dream, my friend who had passed away walked up to me and asked me if I knew what it was that his brother was looking for.
Oh, weird.
Yeah.
Did it feel like the guy? Did it feel like their actual energies, or did it feel more like they were sort of just characters in the dream?
Oh, that's a great question. Characters did not feel like them.
So, in that case, I would say it is probably more likely just about you as opposed to like some involvement that you have in their story. No, because there's a difference. Because I think when we dream of, especially dead people, but it can, I mean, even people that are alive and that you're friends with, there's a difference, I think, between a dream that, like, for instance, a dream that my mom would be in, where it's like she's sort of just representative of mom energy and life and stuff, and then sometimes it'll be like, oh, I wake up and I feel like I just saw this person, I like remembered a smell, it felt like
Mm,
their touch, you know, like
totally, I
there's a
get what you're
huge
saying.
difference,
Yeah.
I think, between those. So I think if it feels like more like their characters than it is asking you to look at like what you know about the younger brother, what you know about your friend that passed, and there is definitely probably a certain amount of their energy in it. But what I would really look for most is like what qualities do you share with the younger brother?
Hmm.
And those are probably the aspects of you that are like frustrated and lost and just going into the same room over and over and not like, and that's, it sounds like the kind of dream where you would wake up exhausted too.
Yeah. And
I definitely know that feeling when you're like trying to run, or like I'll have a lot where I'm trying to punch someone or like fight back, but I'm just like so weak.
that's the worst. I haven't had it in a while, but especially before like I was really taking therapy serious and like working on myself seriously, like maybe like a decade ago, I would have a lot of dreams where I would go to confront someone, and like I feel like my voice would just like I could feel like in my like stomach, like in like in my chest, like this like stuff that needed to get out, whether it was like an anger or like a resentment or this or that, and like but it was like stuck, and I felt like in the dream my voice would like it would just be like like it would just like whimper out, like it would never I could never like confront someone and say it. I'd feel like my words just had no way of escaping my body,
Mm.
which was like so exhausting.
I,
And what's crazy is like that stopped like literally a year after I started going in therapy. I stopped having like those kind of
Interesting.
dreams.
Yeah. I had one. Oh, Prince just fell off the
I didn't
bed
hear that.
because he was sleeping so hard. He'll do this every once in a while, you guys. My cat, he's like oh, he's already back to sleep.
that, that's great energy right there. He's like on brand. I could
He'll
literally
like
hear
be
that. I heard like
sleeping.
I could hear like almost his claws even trying to like stop it for a second and just like bump.
I had to tape parts of my duvet back together underneath like the cover because, like, I mean, he keeps doing this. He'll fall off the bed and just tear a big hole in the duvet. um but yeah, it's because he's stretching in his sleep and he's so damn happy. He has a big smile on his face, but then I'll just fall right off the bed.
No.
Um it's pretty cute. Uh God, what was I even talking about?
Oh.
Dreams.
Should we get into some of the listener submit ones?
Oh wait, you don't remember what I was talking about either?
I honestly
I
don't,
was
because like I got so distracted by the cat.
I
Falling.
did too. Maybe it wasn't meant to be. Oh, we were talking about dreams where you just get stuck and you don't move
Oh
on.
yeah.
So let's not do that and let's move right into some dreams from our listeners.
All right. I tend. I'm going to read this right now. I tend to have reoccurring dreams that kind of happen at different times in my life. And this last one, I had started happening when I found out that I'm moving to the U.S. I had dreamed I'm in a different country and living in a hotel. So this was happening for about 9 years with little changes here and there, and being asked to resign papers for the stay, or re-sign papers for the stay. And every time in my dreams, I would get all nervous and not want to leave. So I would try to do whatever I can to stay. Last episode of the stream was again the same with little changes. This time I finally checked out of the hotel, and that was the last year. Also last year in December I became a US citizen. I think this is friend and fan of the show, Julia, I think sent that one in. So shouts
Oh,
out
cool.
for becoming a US citizen. Um
Yeah, shouts out also and thanks for sending the dream. What platform was that sent on?
that was via the Google or the Goth Yearbook hotline text message channel.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Just for the listeners out there, if you're wondering how to share your dreams with us, you can do multiple things. You can text our hotline at
707-335-8032.
or you can email us at
Gothyearbookafterhours at gmail.com.
Eric spaced out for a second. Or you can DM Eric, I guess. I guess I'll
At
just
Goth Yearbook.
flood his inbox.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
got
at
all
Goth
sorts of
Yearbook.
different areas I'm trying to grab all the stuff from. But yeah.
Don't DM me. I won't. It'll freak me out. No, I'm just kidding. So I think that dream is like extremely straightforward and totally an example. I used to have um I had like almost 10 years of recurring dreams that I was always in like this hotel casino thing by the coast and I was always looking for the spa and then I ended up like at a very like crucial time in my life when it like long story short, I ended up working at spas and I was like, oh, this it's making a lot of sense. Um and just spending a significant amount of time at spas because that's just what my life became. And I love it. And I miss spas being open. But yeah, so I think that dream is like really straightforward and I don't know. I don't necessarily think there's much to interpret, do you?
No, not really. But I do think I do like that there's like a conclusion to it at the end, like it's something I almost have like a movie. I could picture like a person having the recurring dream where they're like stuck in the hotel and they keep being like, it's time to check out. It's time to re-sign these papers and being all nervous about it, and like the end of the movie is like the like beautiful triumphant, like I'm ready to let go.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that whole dream story tells a story of where like there is change and overcoming something at the end because that is definitely sort of like you're eventually gonna get out of that house you were in, Eric.
Mm.
Or school.
Yeah,
It
school.
was a school.
It was a school, yeah.
Yeah, you're um but it's easy. I know it can be really hard sometimes when you're like in the middle of a journey and it just seems endless and you feel like you're stuck in these patterns and repeating the same thing over and over and you keep making maybe the same mistakes over and over or in this case just like keep getting hit by glass ceilings or red tape or whatever it is and so it's good to hear and I wonder if those dreams like each one of those dreams like lent you some wisdom that helped you like on your journey to like attain citizenship or like gave you hints and clues or just put you in a certain state of mind for it.
Yeah. Oh, even more interesting. I'd be curious to see what like I'd be curious to find out Julia, hits up. Feel free to, but I'm curious, like, if there was like other kind of like little imageries throughout it, or like specific, child with the red coat, or like those little things that like are peppered in there that could also have like the symbology in there. Um,
Yeah, or sometimes for me it'll be like I'll see a friend in my dream and like I'm like, "Oh, hey, like let's go up to this spot together." And then the next day I'll just have that friend on my mind, so I'll call them and they'll tell me something that gets me thinking about something that ends up helping me out in a certain way or whatever.
yeah. Um, this next one, uh, they said that they had. I left a response in the stories they made on Instagram, but there was so much to it that they wanted to leave a full message.
Great.
From from what I can recall, it was night and the skies were dark blue and purple. I was running upstairs along some apartments, getting away from what I felt like were zombies, but I never saw any of the undead. I just kind of knew. I find my way onto a street that's lit, but the street lights, and I see a two-story house. Sometimes I think that they are like voice to text, so I think they're a little bit off, so I apologize if I'm reading off. I see a two-story house that stood tall but was rather thin. The lights were on. I approached the front door seeking shelter. The occupants welcomed us in, even though I was by myself. I felt like I was in a group. I'm getting settled and familiarizing myself with the rooms. There was an old Victorian like piano room that I found comfort in. The lights went out and a storm came out of nowhere. I went up to the top floor of the building and found myself gazing out into the distant mountains and a metropolitan city in front, and just a ton of thunder and lightning, and a creature of fire flew by. There were people getting struck by lightning by a Ferris wheel, but were relatively unharmed. Shit. We all gazed out as the lightning, thunder, and rain overwhelmed the sight ahead, and there wasn't anything any of us could do but wait out the storm in this room that was nothing like the room I was in before. It was dark and modern with windows all around. I remember feeling frightened the entire time.
Mm.
There's a lot of imagery in that one. Shit. There's a lot of different things you could really pick
Yeah,
apart from it.
I was going to say uh we can go through it part by part, and I do want to say up front, I think we should do more than one of these episodes because I do want to get to everyone's dream because I think it's really fun to interpret dreams. So I
Mm-hmm.
want to try to do each one justice.
Yeah.
So I don't want to just blow through them, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so remind me how this one started. I remember a dark sky and they're climbing up to the top of an apartment building.
It's kind of broken up. So it was night and the skies were dark blue and purple. I was running upstairs along some apartments, getting away from what felt like zombies, but I never saw any of
You
the
know, yeah.
zombies. I just kind of knew. Which I was gonna say too. That's always interesting to me, like in dreams when there's just like a you're in there and there's just kind of like a knowing where like you'll be in a situation you're like, I know I'm looking for my fourth grade teacher, Mrs. Harris. Like like even though
Mm-hmm.
like no one has like approached you and said that, like you're in all of a sudden you're just like in a room and you're like, oh yeah, like we're trying to find my fourth grade teacher.
Yeah. So I think I was trying to think what I personally haven't ever had any zombie apocalypse dreams, but I know that they're very much in not only in people's dreams but also in the collective conscious right now, more so maybe 5 to 10 years ago, but I think that's really when the world started to become, you know, truly almost universally zombified by technology and entertainment and
Yeah.
consumerism.
Yeah.
And I think and pills as well, or like drugs in general. And so I think it's become this thing in the collective where people see the undead sort of, if you look around, like there's a lot of scenarios you can kind of look around with, and like a lot of people are on autopilot,
Mm.
a lot of people ain't in it. They're not awake, they're not paying attention, they're not looking at their life as like a work of art or a soul journey or anything. They're just sort of getting through each day. And that, again, because everything outside of you is an aspect of you in a dream, so your fear of becoming one of those people, because that's what we're afraid, that's what, there's always the zombie storyline, right? Is like
Mm.
they're undead, uh and they're out to recruit. They just want to eat other people so that those people become zombies. It makes no fucking sense at all because they don't actually eat you. They don't take your energy. They just make you a zombie,
It's almost like
and nobody has thoughts of their own.
a virus that
Ooh.
spreads to become yeah. Which actually, now that I think about it, that looking back on that now, if they're having that dream recently, this is the year to be kind of probably having dreams about like zombies and getting away from large groups of like unwell people, so to speak, because right now there is
Totally.
such a fear to be out in public and be near people and what they might be getting to you.
Yeah, and I mean your whole dream has like a very like German expressionist vibe to it,
Yeah.
like just super gothic and dark but and dramatic and like Victorian and lightning and thunder and monsters and um it's kind of cool in that way, but it's also like, you know, the whole thing of it is it's scary and it's uncomfortable and apocalyptic, and I don't think it's like too much of a stretch to see why you're having a dream about seeing this sort of apocalyptic hellscape around you um in the year 2020. But also I think it was interesting, the one part where there's people on the Ferris wheel getting hit by lightning, but it's not really hurting them. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of people feel a bit disconnected from the actual trauma that's collectively happening. Like, you know, maybe you don't know anyone who's died of COVID, or you you know, like are a privileged, you know, like non POC cis person right now. And like there's a lot of people who aren't necessarily like immediately traumatized, but they're still part of like the collective trauma and fear happening.
Mhm.
Um so it's like there's all this zapping and lightning and change and transformation, but it's almost like not really changing anything.
Well, it's funny you say that because as I'm reading it now, they and this part kind of like went over my head the first time we went through it, but they talk about they finally found comfort in this house, and they found comfort specifically in a room that felt like an old Victorian room with a piano. They said specifically that they found comfort in, but then they wound up in a modern room where they that was when they saw like the
Mm.
storm hitting people outside, and but they weren't really getting hurt. So it's like when you hear about people getting COVID, but they're not necessarily dying, and the modern room is like what's happening right now, but they felt comfort in the Victorian room, what was once before.
They're like, I want to be a 90s Victorian goth, not a 2020s cyberpunk goth.
Yeah. Yep, that's it. They don't want to be the movie
And
Hackers.
lady or man or non-binary uh citizen of Earth or non-citizen of Earth. I don't know.
Person.
I hear you. Yeah, whoever wrote that, I hear you. I forget what I was even responding to by the time I finished that.
Um,
um, but yeah, I think. Oh, the last thing I wanted to say about this was the Ferris wheel was interesting to me too. Because what do you do on a Ferris wheel? You go around and around and around.
yeah, yeah.
So maybe there's this sense of like just being on a ride and kind of being stuck, and like it's sort of the Wheel of Fortune card. There's like that's like the wheel. I would look at the if I was who if you're listening person who sent in this dream, and you know anything about tarot, all you have to do, if you don't know anything about tarot, just look up the cards Wheel of Fortune and the Tower, because that imagery of these people getting struck by lightning on a Ferris wheel is very like those cards combined. And so I think that's interesting. Also, fun fact, the Ferris wheel was invented for the 1913 World Exposition in Chicago
Chicago.
as a
Yeah.
response to the Eiffel Tower, as a feat of engineering, and it in no way rivals the Eiffel Tower. But I think at the time it was a fun novelty, and I have been on the Ferris wheel at Navy Pier in Chicago, and it was pretty fun.
Yeah, I remember when I first heard, I thought the same thing. I was like, I mean, back then, who knows? Like maybe like that day, like I'm sure, like if you're a child, you're like, what a marvel, but like in retrospect,
You've just been playing with a hoop and a stick.
it's so funny. That's such a American thing too. Like, a different country, they're like, we're seeking to go like high and in this new inventive way, and the Americans like, I'm seeking a way for us to be stuck in like perpetual like loop motion.
They're like, no. there are, I mean, they definitely, people were definitely dealing with skyscrapers and stuff in Chicago
Yeah,
at
yeah.
that time. There's also a really cool building in Chicago that was built during the, this is a total fucking tangent, but really quick, there's a really cool building in Chicago that was built during Prohibition that is green and has a gold top and it looks like a champagne bottle.
Oh,
I
cool. I
like
don't
it.
know that. I thought you were gonna talk about like that fucking famous murder hotel place in Chicago. Why am I blanking?
There's not a murder hotel. You're thinking of H. Holmes, who was America's first serial killer, who had a crematorium underneath the city in a weird place. It just like lair that he basically had built for him, and he was just a creepy murderer guy.
Oh, I thought yeah, I guess I'm totally conflating that with something else. I thought he like had like a hotel or something, and like that's how he got away with it. It was like people had checked in but never checked out, kind of shit.
I don't think it was a hotel. I
Yeah,
think it was just a weird, creepy
yeah.
thing.
I mean,
Like maybe it was something
I trust you
because
on
he
this
was
one.
like a doctor or something. I think I know he performed illegal abortions.
Oh shit.
He probably loved that. Okay. Anyway. I'm sorry. Eric, I'm sorry.
Holy shit. Okay, are you ready to go? Let's get into the next one if you're ready.
The mind that brought you shower clown.
Unless was there anything else you wanted to hit upon on the last one?
No,
Okay.
no, I already regret everything.
uh, this person said, "I had a dream that a raccoon kept stealing my car."
Mm.
Well, what a raccoon do you think represent? Like
Well,
mischievousness, deviousness.
yeah. So you actually before the show had asked me if I have any dreams, or I'm sorry, dream books that like explain dream symbols,
Mm.
and I have been personally taught to not. By personally taught, I mean I have chosen based on the literature that I have consumed and agree with. Um, that it's good to look at things like it's good in groups maybe for the way you're supposed to talk about dreams, like the way Robert Moss talks about it is so. For instance, I would say if it was my dream, a raccoon would symbolize XYZ.
Mm.
So for me, it's like trash cat,
Trash can.
like yeah, mischievous night creature. For me, like a raccoon also ate my chicken, so I have like a bit of personal significance, attached to it. Like I used to think they were really cute and kind of harmless and I wouldn't have been scared of one, but now I'm like they're sort of mean and I'm a little cautious of them.
Mm.
Um but so someone else could have totally different significances attached to what a raccoon means for them. And I think there are universal meanings that you can look at and they're helpful, but I also think that it's like not always helpful to be like, "Oh, what does this mean?" and then just look at the thing that other people say like, "Oh, raccoon means that your ovaries are dropping or whatever."
Yeah, and it's hard because these are people. These are all we'll call them anonymous for the most part. So, with that being said, like, how would you interpret your like quick little like elevator pitch of like someone comes up to you and they're like, "Hey, by the way, last night you had a dream that a raccoon kept trying to steal your car."
Um so cars are like for me, okay, if it was my dream, a
Yeah, I was
car
gonna
would
say, yeah,
represent
pretty.
um like a vehicle. So it can be representative of the body, basically, of your physical body. So maybe you're just eating too much garbage
Interesting. I
and
like
like
that.
trash pandas or trash cats are invading are like stealing your vehicle. Cause I would see it kind of as like some fun nighttime cool guy coming up and getting in my vehicle and just like racing it around. And yeah, just based on the way that I've like interpreted dreams in the past, the way what vehicles have represented is it's usually either my body or yeah, like my soul vehicle. But I would just think it has to do with, I keep saying trash, but that I just really associate raccoons with trash.
For me, one of like the few like positive memories I have like from like a trip I went on with like my dad was like one time me, my sisters, my father, and like at the time my stepmother and stepsister, we went to Oregon, and I like kept this little journal from like that particular trip, and I was like way young, probably like only like 5 or 4 or something like that. But at the cabin we stayed at in Oregon, maybe in Bend, I forget, but anywho, there was like a raccoon that was like trying to come and like take our food basically from the trash cans, and like I was enamored, like which is like as I've brought up many times on the show, like woodland creatures, or like especially when I was a child, they were my jam. So for me, and like I wrote like extensively about this raccoon like in that journal, like in very like bad handwriting, but I forget. I gave him a name. Probably was like Rocky or something like unoriginal, but like I did like talk extensively about this fucking
Rocky
raccoon.
the raccoon. That's cute.
And
Um,
so for me
that's
it'd
a
probably be
really
like it'd be like, oh, it's like my childhood innocence trying to like drive away, from my adult life.
yeah, and I mean it would probably have to do with your dad too.
Yeah.
It sounds like. I just had the thought while you were telling that story. What if your dad just listens to every episode of this show?
Friend of the show, Julia, is actually my dad. And this is like his only way of like connecting with me. Other friend of the show, my sister Dana, does follow the show, and she will get a kick out of that. Oh boy. Okay. The next. Unless was there anything else before we move on to the next
I
one?
think we gave two good options.
Ding ding ding. Last night I had one where I was going to jump in my childhood swimming pool, and I kept not being able to.
Mm.
That one's.
So yeah, I liked any body of water in a dream because for if in my studies, if it was my dream body of water, I would immediately associate with emotions. Um, Emotions often in different sort of whatever. Whoa, sorry. Uh,
Do you have a gong right there? What the fuck was that?
it was the spring on the mic.
Oh, it literally sounded like you had like a little mini gong that you going.
Every time I say an element, I'm gonna hit the gong. um, so water is an element, obviously, and if you're looking at like Eastern medicine and water in that sphere and in a lot of places that trace symbolism for many reasons represent emotions because for one of the reasons being it's ever changing, constantly moving, also can have a lot of depth and can be unpredictable, can be like absolutely necessary for life force, but can also be really brutal and kill you. Um, and so if it was my dream, I would be like, oh, there's a body of water. So this is referring to my emotions. And in this case, it's a swimming pool. And so that would really depend on the interpretation for that would really depend on how you feel about swimming pools. And not being able to get in it, I think it's just like maybe not being able to connect with your feelings or really face certain emotions that you need to be processing. And, you know, sometimes it's hard and sometimes the timing's not right yet. And, I think you'll be able to jump in the swimming pool. Sometimes you just gotta do it. Do nice long yoga class, drink some water, jump in the pool.
I like it. That more or less would be kind of where I was going with it as well. My grandparents had a pool that we went to all the time. It was like definitely like a haven in my childhood. So I don't know if someone gave me like that pitch of like you had a dream about that, and it was like that I couldn't get into it. I feel like it would be like, oh, you're for myself. It'd be like you're running away from examining something of your youth or yourself or something like that. Yeah, it's time to jump
Everything's
on in,
about your
buddy.
damn youth.
Yeah. Well, they did say
This whole,
specifically their childhood pool.
oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. They said
Yeah, that
specifically
makes
going to
sense.
jump in my childhood swimming pool. Um, okay.
It is. I was actually thinking about that today, though, and this isn't necessarily an interpretation, but it's only significant because I was thinking about it today, and then this dream came up today. I I have like a weird thing about like if I'm around a body of water or like something and I don't jump in, I always feel guilty. Like I
Mm-hmm.
always feel bad about it. And I think part of that is like I grew up going to the beach and stuff. My dad lives near the beach, and at one point in my life, I spent time with him. And I shouts out to both of our dads. They're both just listening and sipping.
Texting each
They're
other.
like together at a diner. Like they like wait, no, they listen to the show. They drive to the diner together and they listen to the show and then they talk about it
Yeah, at the
over
diner.
coffee and pie. Like a Twin Peaks
Yeah,
episode.
it's very wholesome.
Um
They talk like in riddles to each other, like the daughter spoke clucked twice before the moon. Don't you agree?
she didn't get in the swimming pool. Um, but I still remember like going on this family trip when I was younger, and there was this pool at this whatever resort we were staying at, and it was really, really cold. And I just like never got in it the whole time. And it's ridiculous because like I got into I think there was like a kids pool or a hot tub or like I know I got into some body of water when I was there, you know, so it's not like whatever, but I still remember not jumping into that pool. And it wasn't and like it was only like the last few years when I went to I went like to some waterfall on my birthday a couple of years back. It was up in Oregon and it was beautiful and I part of me wanted to jump in, but it was really cold and there was a big part of me that was like, "You know what? It's my birthday." I think I was like 32. I was like, "I'm 32. I think I don't need to jump in the water anymore." Like, what am I like I don't have anything to prove. I don't
Yeah,
give a shit.
that is true. I feel like that is such a like when you're in your early 20s, like it's constantly like I have to do it. Like it will like be like the total keystone of this whole trip, and like it'll be defining and all this stuff. And now, like I'm like, I know what it feels like. I know what that experience is.
Like, or it could just be dry.
All right. The next one is I had a dream. I had a massive eggplant emoji, and it was heavy. First thing my dream self did was try to pee.
Eric, I think you should take this one.
Well, I mean, it was a woman who sent it because, like, obviously,
Oh,
since it was.
really?
Well, yeah, that's why she was saying like she had a dream that that she never had one before. Like, so
Is the
she's. What were you
is the
saying?
man in your life weighing you down?
I do think it's the first thing that the first thing they try to do is pee. So I guess like they're trying to extract or trying to
Eliminate.
yeah, they're trying to like exactly eliminate. That's perfect. But what? Yeah, you're right. It would be
Yeah.
male energy. There's some sort of like negative male energy in her life that she's trying to eliminate.
Or it's that you need to embrace male energy in order to eliminate something.
Mm. Well, she
I
should pay us.
say stuff a sock down your pants, walk around for a day, pee standing up,
Call us
pee
in the
on
morning.
somebody. Fuck it. Yeah, call us in the morning.
All right, great. I feel like that one was cut and dry. I feel like we just knocked it out of the park on that one.
Yeah.
Crying emoji. I'm awake, but asleep. Someone pulls me by my leg. I can't move. I feel the stubble on their face. And then they
Oh,
followed it up
what?
with, yeah. Then they followed up with, I honestly don't know if it's a dream or repressed memory, which is like,
Oh,
ugh.
fuck. That's
It could be something else
uh
though. I mean, stubble on their face. That could be the grinds of the patriarchy scraping against the female body.
there's a term in for my job for massage therapy that, like beyond my scope of practice. If like someone
Yeah, that's
if
good.
like I don't want to fuck with someone's
Yeah,
surgery or something, you know. Yeah, I don't know if I want to go there with this person.
but we do see
If
you,
it's
appreciate you.
yeah, thanks for sending that in, but I'm a little scared to touch that for you. Cuz this is a podcast that is humorous. And that sounds like it could be potentially serious. Otherwise, I would just say in general, it just sounds like a, invasive sort of feeling. And so maybe there's feelings right now coming up for you around vulnerability and fear and safety and security, it seems like.
I like it. Yep. When I was little, I would say my crush's name over and over before sleeping, hoping he would. That one got cut off. That's all we know on that one. And it's not really a dream. They're actually this person's just telling us like their pre-bedtime ritual when they were a kid, which is like super
Well,
charming though. I'm assuming what they're
we've
go on.
I was gonna say we've talked about dream incubation and
Yeah,
basically setting up your subconscious to
manifest
solve a
it.
problem for you or do something or see a certain person. So I think you were just you were basically just lucid dreaming. You were dream
Yeah.
incubating.
You know what? I
And
hope it worked.
I still do it.
Same here, yeah.
I'll like check up on dudes and people just to know what they think about me, and I feel like when I have dreams about them, they are really revealing.
Oh, no shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, okay. But we're here to interpret, and this one is for interpreting, and it goes, one time a cow chased me. This was a big hit on the Instagram stories.
It was
I got a lot of messages about it. I got a lot of responses. People using their opportunity to send in something to comment on that one.
This one went viral.
Yeah. The cow went viral. Um, I don't know, cow, like dairy, maybe she was something to do with like lactating mom. I don't know. Maybe she's feeling very fertile right now.
Yeah, I could see cows being associated with fertility. Maybe your your biological clock is coming to get you. No, I don't know. I'm trying. When you said cow, I thought of having a cow, like freaking out. So if it was my dream, I would think of like, oh, like having a cow, like just me like freaking out is coming to get me. Like maybe like I might think that I was like kind of putting off some of my feelings about something and they were just going to catch up with me basically. And I was going to have a big overreaction if I didn't turn around and look at them.
Gotcha. I can see that. I guess for me, gosh, I don't know where I would think about it because I've given cows so little thought in my life. But I associate, I guess the first thought, first place I go with cows is like when my friends and I used to like go hiking all the time, especially like in and around the Bay Area, like in the foothills and all that. There's like so many like just like huge collections of cows, and sometimes like they would like not like in a way that would scare you, but they would like kind of charge at you if you got too close or this or that for a second. So I guess I would maybe associate it with like times with friends or something. I don't know.
Well, for you, it sounds like this one. It might just be a repressed memory.
Yeah, all these like for me. Damn.
Did you log into another account and send this one in?
Like weeping like onto my phone. Well, hopefully hopefully this person finds some sort of relief on the other side of that cowdom. I had a dream. Ooh, this one, man, I've had this sort of dream so many times in my life. They said I had a dream where I wrote my thesis and it was completed, and then I woke up and cried.
Oh, that's the worst.
Yeah.
I'll do that when it's like with like songs or something creative that I really want to be done or yeah, I hate that. That's just a straight up fucking bummer. I think that's just wish fulfillment.
Yeah.
That's a Freudian thing. So wish fulfillment is a like classic dream type from the Freudian school of thought, which is just like you and I totally believe that there are a category of dreams that are just purely like you wanted that ice cream and you didn't get it, so then you go home and you fucking dream about the ice cream.
There have been so many times at like where I've had something so stressful involving my job, and it's usually has to do with like a conversation I have to have like with the customers like that I know is like gonna leave them not being excited or happy, and I like in the dream like I'll have the conversation. I'll be like, oh, like all right, this like, and I'll wake up and I'll be like, that seemed like maybe like I'll use like that phrase I said because in the dream like it seemed like it went well when I went that route, and then like in real life it'll be like nope, never mind. Um, but I do feel for that person because God, I've had like so many of those kinds of dreams, and it is so unfortunate. Okay, this one,
But oh, by the way, I wanted to say that I looked it up really quick, and you are totally correct that the cow is universally from cultures around the world seen as connected with Mother Earth, a symbol of power, nurturing, and full fertility.
Oh shit! See, so maybe it really is that it has something to do with her being chased by like maybe she's feeling pressured to get pregnant or have children, or maybe not. Maybe it's the opposite. Who knows? But something for them to
Or
explore.
even if it was just the nurturing element, like maybe you're like running from your need to be nurtured.
Interesting. And a great segue actually because excuse me, the next one is breast. Okay, I'm trying to like say as they would from the question. Breastfeeding some unknown person's premature child while hiding from them.
Damn, that's fucked up. Sorry. No judges. um so I don't even know, man. Um I actually just watched an
No.
Unsolved Mysteries about child abduction. Um like from the hospitals like with newborn babies. So Eric is losing it.
Just the idea of saying no judges after that, just like oh shit.
I said judgesies. Okay, so I think the premature baby again, if you're gonna look at everyone in your dream as a reflection of yourself, what aspect of you is a premature baby? Some part of you that never even left your mother's womb, maybe some part of yourself that you've never been able to realize in your life. Maybe an aspect of like your ancestry or like maybe some like what is it? Yeah, and it's called ancestral trauma when it's like something that generation after generation has been dealt with by members of your family that maybe hasn't ever been overcome, and maybe that's an aspect of your consciousness that you're trying to feed right now and you're trying to nurture and let come to but it's someone else's, which is really interesting. So there's still an aspect of you that's maybe separating from it. Because it's like you even it's almost like imposter syndrome, like you don't even believe
Mm.
like it's your dream and it's not even your baby, you're like you have to be taking from somebody else, so maybe that's uh pointing in the direction that you don't feel like you are worthy of being this nurturer or whatever, that you have to like be getting it, like you don't have the power of creation yourself, you have to like take it from somebody else to get to move forward to heal some aspect of yourself.
I
I
fuck
don't
with
know.
that. No, yeah. You know what? I
Or it's
honestly I do kind of feel all that. I feel like it's and so obviously I feel like I think that I do think that there's a familial aspect to it, and I do think that again it has something to do with nurturing. And as far as like them hiding from that person, is it hiding from or the abandonment around nurturing or the suffocation of nurturing? Who knows for this particular
mm-hmm.
person? But I think I do feel like those are all it's kind of ripe with those themes for sure.
Yeah, like the idea of kidnapping a premature baby is really fascinating, or just kidnapping a baby in general, because it's like you're doing this really horrible criminal thing that's sort of like as criminal as like murdering someone, because you're basically murdering someone's child in the sense that that person no longer gets to have that child.
Mm-hmm.
um but you're also like embracing this parental nurturing aspect in yourself, which
Well,
is a really weird polarized sort of experience.
yeah, I do. I actually now the more you say that, the more I'm thinking about it. I do feel like the baby is probably like some representation of like herself in some way, because I'm assuming that like the dream probably started like she already had the baby and like was in possession of this baby, and the fact that, and it was one of those things like we've been commenting on where like she already knew in her head that the child was like premature in some way, and so I feel like she's like in some ways like kind of like breastfeeding herself and hiding from something, and there is like some sort of like cyclical nature to it where it's like the cycle of nurturing and maybe like some fucked up trauma around that for that particular person, you know. So leave the baby at a dream fire station, and it's time to move on.
Don't steal babies.
Even
Also
in dreams.
interesting because yeah, even in dreams. It's also interesting uh because if you didn't actually give birth, it would be really hard to breastfeed a baby.
Oh yeah,
Um
that's true.
that, that could have to do with maybe I would if it was my dream, I would look at how that sort of relates to my creativity and like am I uh am I coming up dry?
Something I ask myself every day. Um, this person says, I have very vivid dreams and night terrors. Crying emoji. Last night I dreamt I started a race war. Shrug emoji.
Is that Kendall Jenner's? um
I will say it's a POC woman follower of ours. So
Oh, interesting. Okay.
so which in has like its own kind of, I guess, maybe
I mean, yeah, I think it would be slightly different dream if it was like a white listener. Um,
yeah, that would be
just
flagged.
because that's yeah, it's a different perspective on it. You know, starting a race war. It's literally about race.
Yeah, and with like the national conversation, like global, realistically, right
Mm-hmm.
now for the last like 6 months has been on race relations, specifically in America and like, kind of throughout the whole world. But like it's been really hyper like focused like in America at the time at this moment. So I could understand why, you know.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how it was phrased and how like it seems to be that there's like a lot coming up psychologically for this person during this period. A lot of stuff, probably also ancestral trauma coming up, generational trauma. And that stuff, I mean, it's not just woo woo. Like they have proven there's books on it. Like that shit gets stored in your DNA, you know, that trauma, that fear. They've shown with like when you transplant organs from one person to another, um, that person will pick up on habits and cravings and whatnot that that other person had. And it's like, so that stuff is in our bodies. And you know, I think what I would look at if this was my dream is, you know, it's like where you seem to be taking a lot of responsibility for something that's like happening on a global scale. Um, you know, you're like, it's like you're starting it, you're the cause of it. And I could see, you know, not being a POC, it's a little hard for me to speak from that to that perspective, but I can relate maybe from like I would say from like the Me Too movement and like when people started speaking up about sexual harassment, how like I don't know, that kind of stuff was always really difficult to talk about because it always felt very like bringing attention to yourself and like trying and like so if people saw it like uh one of the favorite phrases among you know people who want to downplay other people's feelings is like drama, you know, like oh you're just starting drama, like you're just being dramatic, you're just starting. And I could see maybe taking some of like all the racial stuff that's like coming to the surface in our country and around the world right now upon yourself as something that you're personally doing because maybe it feels comfortable for you for the first time to be speaking up about it, to be speaking out about it, and to be taking action and holding other people accountable for taking action for it. But you know, it's like you got to go easy on yourself and realize that like you didn't start this war. Like it's been going on.
Mm. Mhm. Um we got time made for one last one. It's kind of a more vague one, so I'm just curious like your thoughts as we kind of wrap this up. But someone said that they have lots of natural disaster dreams. They didn't specify what the natural disaster is. Just in general, they have lots of dreams wrapped around natural disasters, which I do as well, actually. When I do have like ones that are a little bit more chaotic and a little bit more this or that, they tend to be ones of natural disasters, which I've always thought maybe he's about just stress about our fucking ecosystem and the
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's super valid to, and I think that you know, as long as there have been humans living on this planet, there have been natural disaster dreams, and I think as far as if you want to look at it symbologically,
yeah, that tracks.
symbolically.
There you go. That tracks better.
uh yeah. That one tracks with the dictionary, the Merriam-Webster. It would depend on what the natural disaster is. Like, you know, an earthquake is going to have a different significance than a tsunami, although it's usually one following another. Um, for instance, like I used to have a lot of tsunami dreams, but that was when I was having, and again, water for me would be representing emotions. That was when I was having feelings that would basically be so overwhelming, they would just like destroy my life because I would let them cause me to react in these crazy ways. And an earthquake might represent more like financial instability or fear of, you know, the your circumstances changing. So it really, I think, depends on that. I think there's also just an aspect of human nature that wants to always be on top of survival, and we do live in an unstable planet, you know, and things happen that are unpredictable. We're taught from a young age that we should be prepared for disasters. So I do think it's a normal part of the brain to, when you're sleeping and processing and you know, preparing your life plan for a better future as a human being in your uh non-waking state, your dreaming state, for you to be going through disaster scenarios and sort of mapping out like how you would behave and what could potentially be coming your way.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good note to end the show on. I fuck with that little breakdown, that little intrepidation, if you will. Um,
Intrepidation.
yeah, you like that? Uh, on the real, I do like the idea.
Symbologically, I do.
Yeah, another one that doesn't track with the dictionary. Like Caitlin was saying, we were talking right before the show, but we definitely want to start making this like a consistent show that we'll do the dream interpretations, because we still have so many more that we didn't even get a chance to go through. I didn't even get halfway through the Instagram stories, and I saw that we got a couple more text messages sent to the Hotmail, the hotline, while we were at the Hotmail,
The hot
the hot
mail.
the hotline while we were doing the show. So obviously there are people out
Wait.
there that want to get their dreams analyzed, and I think that this just means that we'll have to come back and redo some more.
Well, let's say that we will be back on Thursday to do just that then.
Right, I'm into it. We'll do Dreams Part 2,
we
Electric Boogaloo.
we didn't book a guest calendar this month, guys. I'm just gonna let the cat out of the bag.
We got big things on the horizon, guys. Just not November.
Huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the biggest is that we're unrolling this whole new dream series that we're doing that we just decided right now. So we'll be back on Thursday, 10 p.m. Pacific time, interpreting your dreams. Until then, you can reach us at our hotline.
707-335-8032.
Once again, that's
707-335-8032. You like that?
thank you, Eric. Or you can email us at gothyearbookafterhours@gmail.com,
Mm-hmm.
or you can DM us at gothyearbook, or you can follow us on Twitter.
Oh,
You
yeah.
can be the 10th person,
That.
which is at gothyearbookaf. Um, Please, if you liked our podcast, if you got your dream interpreted tonight and you feel like you got some value added to your life, consider contributing to our Patreon, which is patreon.com/gothyearbookafterhours. And there's lots of extra bonus episodes there. And also, please rate and review us. We are on Apple podcasting app. It just started sounding like a robot.
Yeah.
We're on the Apple Podcast app, and it helps us out a ton if you guys actually give us 5 stars or however many stars you think that we deserve. I think it just matters that we get the reviews in there. If you like the show, if you listen to the show, please also tell your friends. Word of mouth is a really great way for podcasts to spread like COVID-19 and get out to the ears of the people. So send your favorite episode to a friend
Mm.
and ask them to watch it and DM us. And also, we still have Class of 2020 t shirts available in black, and there's a few white ones left as well. So get those for your Christmas or Hanukkah or Spirit of Satan December celebration,
Mm.
whatever holiday spirit you inhabit, get a t-shirt.
Whatever it may be, get a fucking t-shirt. Yeah,
uh,
absolutely. And before we end the show, I was found this great little poem in this book called where's the I can't remember, The Enlightened Heart, an anthology of sacred poetry. Because it's the National Native American Heritage Month, I did want to read this because it's a little prayer, which I think since we just did a whole episode about dreams, like the perfect prayer to say before we all go to bed tonight. This has been designated as an old Navajo blessing slash prayer. I ask all blessings, I ask them with reverence of my mother, the earth, of the sky, moon, and sun, my father. I am old age, the essence of life. I am the source of all happiness. All is peaceful, all in beauty, all in harmony, all in joy, which I think is really beautiful. You
aw,
like that? Yeah. All right. And
that's
on
real
that,
nice.
yeah, that's real nice.
That's real nice. I think we should donate a percentage of whatever we get this month from Patreon and t-shirt sales to whatever. Please send us a Native American nonprofit that would be awesome for us to donate to, and we will happily do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm into it. Uh, and on that note, I will say, Caitlin, as always, thank you for being the co-host of the Mo-host. And good night, guys.
All right, good night.